here we are, back in my hometown. I have a confession to make, y'all. It was my full intention to film this video entirely in my hometown, but life happened. Life happened, and my visit turned into one that I needed to be fully present for. There are a few clips I managed to get scattered in there, but for the most part, that is not the case. For the sake of coherency, I do apologize, though I only hope that does not take away from the message or from your ability to enjoy, and I sure hope you do. So, let's resume. It's always a bittersweet feeling. My life is elsewhere now, for the better most definitely, but this place will always be a significant part of me, where I spent my first 18 years. Though, admittedly, even while that chapter was still being written, I couldn't wait for it to come to an end. I knew better things would play out in the next because, to be honest, I've never felt I truly belong here. Now, that's not to cast any ill feelings upon my family or my upbringing, not at all. I am very lucky to say I've always had an incredible support system and look back on my childhood fondly. Still, something has always felt a bit off, like the molds crafted by these surroundings were never meant for me. Some can and certainly do thrive here, happily following, whether exactly or with slight manipulation, one of the paths set before them. I'm just not one who can. My path is too different, and the walls aren't malleable enough to make it work. So, for my own greater good, I do believe my wish to leave, to let my hometown drift further and further into my past, is valid. But I shouldn't let that overshadow all the reasons I have to be grateful. I have this place to thank for giving me my best friend, for giving us a common baseline to bond over, a baseline that inspires us, that drives our dreams and aspirations of getting out there and living life despite where our circumstances drew our starting lines. Now, if we're considering all the world has to offer, I'll just be honest and say we don't have many positive remarks pertaining to our hometown, but we let that serve as motivation rather than discouragement. In a backwards sort of way, this place reminds us of all that we want for ourselves. We left everything we knew behind when it came time for college. Was it a bit scary? Sure. Things like that usually are. Though what we've gained along the way has been worth every ounce of sacrifice. We've gotten to know the people we wish to become on deeper levels and have grown a few more inches into those shoes. Inches we previously didn't have, where we used to be pressed against the walls of our environment's boundaries. And now we come back to our hometown as the same people, of course, but also not at all. There's a part of us our town no longer knows, and I suppose, too, a part of our town we no longer know. A part of us our town can no longer understand, and a part of our town we can no longer understand. So the place we used to know lives on in our minds, unchanged, but reveals just how much we have. Shows us that, against all odds, we actually made it on the journey we've always dreamt of. I have this place to thank for giving me my first love. It will always bound that story, be the backdrop of the beginning and the end. The place where I experienced what it feels like to fall, and the place where I learned how to let go. If a single thing is capable of containing the full range of human emotion, I believe it is love. Devastatingly beautiful, beautifully tragic, and everything in between. Though it's all worth it to experience feeling so deeply for a person who reciprocates, to put your heart on the line regardless of the risk, and be met with hands so gentle it seems they were meant to hold such precious cargo. With an energy so invigorating, it gives the pump in your chest a reason to grow a little deeper. Even if the whole thing only ends up being a temporary conversion of two fatefully separate lives, The experience of love, I think, is unforgettable. Her memory is certainly one that will hold a reservation in my mind forever. There are multiple reasons she is deserving of such space, but perhaps the most outstanding is how she handles situations. Regardless of what life throws at her, grace is something she consistently brings to the table. It's hard to put emotions aside in the heat of the moment, to unwaveringly choose to lead with compassion and empathy. That's a big thing I'm working on, with the goal for it to become my default. So having a front row seat to watch someone move through life who has reached that point was nothing short of a privilege. Similar to my relationship with my hometown, ours will fall victim to the passage of time, and she will turn into someone I used to know. But she will always mean more to me than it seems maybe she should. The person I did know will forever be an inspiration. Now, I know that's only 2 reasons, though I think that's enough. For me, relationships have just as much influence on experiences as physical setting, if not more. People are everything. I mean, all we really have at the end of the day is each other, and allowing yourself to lean into that without apprehension seems to always lead to something beautiful. Much easier said than done, a work in progress for me, for sure, but the times I have yet to disappoint. 2 of my most important relationships thus far are a result of doing so, which I let serve as a reminder that choosing love is always worth it. And that brings me to my goal here today, to initiate a bit of a mindset shift. This town doesn't deserve the negative light I've cast it in for so many years. Not to mention, continuing to do so would be a bit hypocritical. I can't say I'll ever forget the feeling of never really fitting into the space set aside for me, but that was never what mattered most. What mattered most was the people I met throughout my time here. To be completely honest, I let myself lose hope in this place, but they never lost hope in me, and that was all the difference. They were there to remind me not to lose sight of what I wanted, my source of encouragement to continue down a path our environment didn't support. They are the reason I can look back on my first 2 decades and say, you know what, they turned out beautiful after all, and that I wouldn't trade for the world.